I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Well, it's a long, long journey to the capital city. It's a long, long wait while I'm sitting in committee. But I know I'll be a law someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just...
Today, we're going to learn about democracies.
When I started, I wasn't even a bill. I was just an idea. Some folks back home decided they wanted a law passed, so they called their local congressman, and he said, "You're right, there ought to be a law." Then he sat down and wrote me out and introduced me to Congress, and I became a bill. And I'll remain a bill until they decide to make me...
Democracy means that power rests with people. It means people can shape the important decisions that affect their lives.
Oh, but it looks like I'm going to live. Now I go to the House of Representatives and they vote on me.
If they vote yes, what happens?
Then I go to the Senate and the whole thing starts all over again.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And if they vote for me on Capitol...
Imagine being told all your life that democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And you keep that image in your head every day. You go to the polls to elect leaders you believe will put the people's interests, rights, and needs first. Because that's what governments always do. But instead, nothing can be further from the truth. Politicians take money from wealthy individuals, special interest groups, corporations, and even foreign governments to influence and tailor their politics to fit the needs of these groups and themselves at the expense of the rest of us. That's exactly how lobbying and lobbyists operate. They walk in with heaps of cash that legislators crave and walk out with policies that create an easy ride for them to laugh all the way to the bank with tainted money.
We are going to drain the swamp.
It is undermining American democracy.
A couple of different ways that groups who want to put money into politics do so.
One way is lobbying current lawmakers in Congress.
Lobbying is arguably the American government's oldest profession. It's an industry worth over $3.5 billion with around 12,000 professionals and hundreds of firms, unions, trade associations, and interest groups in the field.
Tech names betting big on the continued rise of artificial intelligence, as we were just talking about, and lobbying dollars are surging along with it.
But lobbying is a $3.7 billion industry, and your average lobbyist is taking home $112K a year.
And we found that more than 450 organizations registered just in 2023 to lobby the government specifically.
What's even crazier to think about is how normalized lobbying has become in American politics and society. Almost every big company you can think of off the top of your head employs lobbyists to help secure favorable policies and attain special status. Think of the pharmaceutical companies, the tech companies, the energy companies. All these companies and many more operate within a system that allows them to throw cash in the face of legislators in exchange for special favors. These people, companies, and institutions that partake in lobbying usually hire lobbyists to help get the job done. Think about it. What do you think these lobbyists really do? Yes, it's a profession that, as of 2023, has 11,600 people registered as professional lobbyists. What do you think they do? It's exactly what you're thinking. Stick around as we investigate the super lucrative business of lobbying. Officially, lobbyists negotiate and come to agreements with lawmakers. Yeah, right, whatever. That's what they want you to think. However, what we do know is that scary amounts of money usually exchange hands between the institutions that these lobbyists represent and politicians. The disclosed ones often come in forms of campaign donations, fundraising events, and independent expenditures. However, that's only half of the story. Politicians are receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars in campaign donations from lobbyists even before they reach office. It'll be incredibly naive to assume that those dollars suddenly stop coming in when the politicians attain office, especially when you consider the fact that the average US senator has to pull in more than $14,000 every single day to stay in office. Former lobbyist Jack Abramoff says it best. You can't take a congressman to lunch for $25 and buy him a steak, but you can take him to a fundraising lunch and not only buy him that steak, but give him $25,000 extra and call it a fundraiser. How does that sound to you? Outrageous, right?
The Montage Laguna Beach is one of the top resorts on the West Coast.
Let us break down for you how lobbying works. Let's assume you're a giant tech company that wants to pay less taxes. You would want an inside man on the Senate committee that handles the industry you play in, so you identify the senator of your choice to give him $100,000 to vote your way when the time comes. You wouldn't just send him the $100,000 directly, because that would be in violation of federal law. Oh no! You instead hire a lobbying company that organizes a fundraiser for the re-election of said politician and raise the $100,000 there. The senator gets his fat check and you get your man to vote for less tax only for your company. How lovely! But it's not just cash that lobbyists hook greedy politicians with. Oh no! It gets even more scarier than that, as we will explore later on. So stay tuned as we reveal more ugly secrets that will shock you.
To pay for the chance to weekend with a lawmaker.
It's basically corrupt. And it is legalized corruption.
Surprise, surprise! Lobbying did not originate from within America. Influential citizens and groups as far back as in ancient Rome and ancient Greece sought to sway the decisions of the Senate and Assembly. In medieval Europe, nobles and other powerful figures even resorted to strategic marriages to give them some power to sway public policy and rules. Like a lot of modern iterations of democratic and leadership behaviors, Americans adopted lobbying as far back as the early days of the Republic. Back in the 18th century, lobbying was a public process that could be followed by the general public, but it couldn't be any more different today. The goal then remains the goal now. Get what you want by dropping tons and tons of money in the right hands. One big difference between lobbying then and lobbying now is the amount of money that changes hands today. Today, the lobby industry is valued at $3.5 billion. That's right, that's a whopping $3.5 billion. With a B. Now that's a whole lot of money for an industry that essentially works to shortchange the average citizen. In the 19th century, the biggest lobbyists wanted railroad subsidies and tariffs on wool. As time passed, priorities began to shift for people and lobbyists alike. That was when the big players appeared. Take Charles T. Howard of the Louisiana State Lottery Company, who actively lobbied the government of Louisiana for the purpose of getting a license to sell lottery. It was reported that his lottery company spent about $2 million annually to lobby legislators for it to make a killing $4 million per month. Did you get that? He spent $2 million to get $48 million. Not bad. This was in 1866, and it opened the floodgates for all sorts of groups with all sorts of interests, and today, the effect of a lot of the groups that became emboldened by the early successes of this sort of lobbying is being felt by poor citizens all across America. The surging popularity of lobbying and the blatant disregard of ethics surrounding it raises questions as to who really calls the shots in American society. It should be the people. That's what democracy is all about. But when those who represent the people can be bought out by people who want their bidding done whatever the cost, do the people really call the shots? Are the needs of the people even worth anything at this point, if the needs of a select few groups and individuals will take precedence amongst politicians and lawmakers if the price is right? In the grand scheme of this operation, lobbyists are mere middlemen. They approach politicians with the offer and monies of the people they represent. Most times, these people who hire lobbyists have public-facing profiles or organizations. However, it's not far-fetched to assume that many of these are heavily curated to pass the eye test. In fact, a lot of these companies and individuals are merely representatives of the real policy influencers who lurk in the shadows watching the people they pay do the dirty work. The lobbying industry is already shrouded in mystery, and with all the money flying around, it should come at no surprise to anyone that people with all sorts of views and plans will do everything they can to stay incognito while the dirty work is being done by their lapdogs. In the old days, when lobbying was conceived as an idea and its first steps were taken, it was a public affair. People were open to attend, contribute to, and scrutinize lobbyists and lobbying sessions. This helped maintain a decent level of transparency to the process. It was also key in ensuring that the general public knew what was going on. But today, the only parts of lobbying that the public gets to observe and scrutinize are whatever the lobbyists and politicians and their well-oiled PR machinery want you to see. All the dark, dirty backroom dealings never see the light of day. There have even been scenarios where politicians have denied meeting with and having agreements with lobbying groups until the information was leaked out to the public or uncovered in some high-level investigation. Surprise, surprise. This is exactly what happened to U.S. Representative Randy Cunningham and Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. The former had to resign and serve over 8 years in prison after being caught accepting $2.4 million in bribes, while the latter was impeached and sentenced to 14 years in federal prison for attempting to sell the U.S. Senate seat of President Obama. How low can you go? You know how they say that the love of money is the root of all evil, right? In case you were wondering, it's not a lie. Historically, most high-profile cases involving politicians have centered around financial misconduct. Money makes people do things they may typically not do. And sometimes the money is so much that even some of the strongest-willed people end up being bought. Politicians and lobbyists alike will tell you that all monies are accounted for and properly documented. However, testimonies tell a totally different story. Usually politicians have public records of donations and monies they receive, but many times it has been revealed that they publish only what they want people to know about. You heard that right. Politicians usually lie about the money they receive. I'm shocked. So, apart from being some of the most privileged people in America, politicians are making even more money while ignoring the problems that average Americans face on a daily basis. Not only that, but they make deals that actually hurt America and Americans, as we will see next. At a time when the American economy is standing on shaky grounds and millions of Americans are struggling, Congress voted a number of times in favor of continuously sending billions of dollars of financial aid and weaponry to other countries like the Ukraine and Israel.
On this vote, the ayes are 311 and the nays are 112. The bill is passed. Oh, one voting present. I missed it, but thank you. Okay. The House will be in order.
The latest polling indicates a growing number of Americans, about half of the population, oppose additional aid for both you.
Not in the face of an intensifying strategic competition in the Indo-Pacific and around the world.
If the witness will suspend. There must be ceasefire, and yet not one senator is calling for a ceasefire. Shame on you! Stop the genocide! 15,000 children died because of you! Stop the genocide! You're a murderer!
I want to briefly stop here to dive into the AIPAC example because it best demonstrates how cunning and powerful a single lobbying group can hijack the American government using a simple but absolutely effective strategy of surgical strikes. Even when American citizens beg their representatives to make better use of these funds on American grounds, their cries are ignored. Why do you think this is? Well, here's a big hint. AIPAC currently spent close to $30 million in disclosed amounts, lobbying politicians in 2022. Now, before I say anything, I want to make a big disclaimer. I am not Israeli nor Palestinian, so I don't want to be dragged into this regional conflict that has absolutely nothing to do with me. I take no side in this fight. I am merely using this example to illustrate how just one lobby that is very well organized can have such tremendous influence on US foreign policies. AIPAC, or the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, is nothing more than a tool used by a foreign government to take control of our American government to give Israel and her allies trillions of dollars the past 80 years in the forms of weapons, ammunition, supplies, and loans. This is how AIPAC works. They would call Senator or House of Representative members running for election or re-election and ask them if they would give our precious tax money to Israel. If the politician answers he or she will, then AIPAC will give him or her thousands of dollars. If he or she refuses, then AIPAC will not only not give him or her a single dime, but would instead give the money to the opposing politician who would vote in favor of aid to Israel. These Congress people are scared to death because if they don't do the bidding of AIPAC, then their political career is over. No money to spend on campaigns means no money for ads on the radio, newspapers, TV, mail, and internet to get your name out for the voters to know how you are. No recognition, no votes, no political seat for you. You can simply kiss your political future goodbye. So we can clearly see here that in America, you need two things to win elections. 1, votes, and 2, money. In the 2018 midterm elections, the average cost for winning a Senate seat was $15.7 million, while that for a House seat was over $2 million. Now, how could any senator or House representative afford this if his or her salary is only $175,000 per year? Now you know how important money is from lobbies and the special interest groups they work for. So is it any surprise that America gave Israel $12.5 billion since the Hamas attack on October 2023 while stopping all aid to the Palestinian people who are in desperate need of food, water, medical supplies, and shelter? And remember that during this same time, street protests across America, Canada, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East erupted, demanding America to stop arming Israel. These protests, including the ones in many college campuses, had millions of people participating in them. So even when American citizens are calling for an end to the war, their leaders continued giving bombs and missiles to Israel. And this is from both parties. It doesn't matter if they are Democrat or Republican, because AIPAC had bought them all with well-placed lobby money. AIPAC invested $30 million and got $12.5 billion for Israel. In other words, for every dollar AIPAC spent on Capitol Hill, it got back $416 for Israel. Not bad. But the financial cost is not the only price America has to pay for AIPAC's actions. Since the 2023 Hamas attack, 9 new countries recognized Palestine's right to exist, including many US allies such as Norway, Jamaica, Slovenia, and Spain, while America continues to pressure the world not to do so. As a matter of fact, America is the primary reason why only 48 countries refuse to let Palestine live by using its veto power in the UN to block Palestine's full membership. And in part for this reason, many countries hate America and Americans for being so hypocritical as the so-called champion for freedom and human rights. How can we be seen as the bright shining city on the hill if we deny the rights of others to live?
He's an AIPAC. He buys Congress.
So you're killing my people with the money that AIPAC is giving us.
And destroying our democracy by spending $100 million to get rid of people who are concerned about human rights.
You need to stop going after
You are destroying our country. You are destroying the people of Palestine. You are a cancer on this system, and you are making us less safe. Your allegiance is to Israel, not the United States.
This is clear proof that politicians value their own pockets over the genuine concerns of America and the American people. They don't care if their actions put Americans in harm's way or tarnish America's good image. There are other topics that are less unanimous amongst Americans that also get treated with the same level of deafness from the Congress, like gun control, the drugging of America, which I heavily cover in my previous video, toxic food, etc., etc. Here's the hard truth. Politicians will do anything to win elections, even if it means alienating the people they represent. Take a look at this. Politicians gather grassroots support, win elections by riding on the coattails of people like you, and then get into position only to start prioritizing deals that bring in money for mostly themselves over matters that improve the lives of Americans as they promise to do. Besides for money, another big carrot that these so-called leaders of ours are willing to sell their cheap souls for is jobs. That's right, jobs. After leaving Congress or any position of power, politicians enter the private corporate world to work as private citizens in the industries of banking, military, security, insurance, or Wall Street. And sometime later, they would return back to government to pass laws promoting the interests of these same industries. And afterwards then would go back to the private sector, hence the term revolving door. This already pokes big holes in the premise of democracy being our government, for us, and by us because the people we elect to represent us are only representing themselves and others. In other words, these politicians are nothing but high-class whores who answer to the highest bidders and will do anything to get money for the next election. A side note, another goal of theirs is to frustrate us into apathy by showing us that all our cries and pleadings will fall on deaf ears. Who cares if America and the American people suffer if we political elites will stuff our greedy pockets with millions? When you vote for different politicians at different positions and they all disappoint in the same way, you will start to reconsider whether there's any point in voting at all. The less people are interested in participating, the more politicians can get away with irregular and illegal crimes. The less eyes on them, the better. Their goal is to make us accept it as it is with no room for change. Lobbyists and their mouthpieces will tell us to just keep quiet and embrace lobbying as it stretches its tentacles to strangle our American Republic. They will even put out sweet news bits to encourage us to hop on the bandwagon and get our reps to do their bidding. All of these are more lies to get us to shut our mouths while they continue to hijack our country and future. With the lobbying scene almost becoming an auction these days, it's virtually impossible for ordinary citizens to make any impact at all as we continue to be marginalized by those with lots of dough to throw around. So how do we fix this broken mess? Here is my list of suggestions. First, we must return to our true roots of being the land of the free. Free from foreign influence or corporate control or control from any single group of special interest that is not of the people. We must educate our people of the dangers of all organizations that have so much power over our elected officials. Children must learn about this starting from elementary school all the way up to high school and beyond. It's time to put the people first and say no to subversive elements that want to take over our nation. The government must return to being one of the people, for the people and by the people, and not that of the corporations, for the foreign governments, and by the lobbyists. But knowledge and education are not enough. We need to put some teeth in our actions. Laws must be made to limit how much money each lobby can give to politicians. I propose no more than $1,000. A special law must be made to prevent any politician and their family members from getting jobs at corporations that they provided lobbying services for after leaving office. If a congressperson violates this law by accepting such jobs, he or she will be jailed for 5 years plus forced to pay back all salaries from said company. The company will be fined $500,000 per incident. This extends to anyone in the Congress member's family, including distant ones, if it is found they got these positions because of a previously arranged deal. This will not violate personal freedom because our elected officials must be held to higher standards. Third, there must be total transparency by the lobbyists and politicians of how much was given, by whom, when, and for what reason. These records will be made to the public within a week. Failure to accurately report will be punished by jail time plus heavy fines of $1 million per incident. Fourth, anyone running for office cannot spend more than $500,000 for Senate and House and $2 million for the presidency. Candidates should win by their message and policies, not how much they have in their war chest. Any ads by anyone or any organization in any form, such as newspapers, radio, mail, television, or internet, that promotes any candidate must be limited to these monetary limits. Any violation of this rule will be punishable by jail time plus heavy fines of $1 million per incident. Last, but certainly not least, there is power in unity. Patriots from Alaska to California to Maine must come together to share ideas, resources, and information to gain synergy instead of working individually. There are many organizations that actively work hard to expose the deep corruption that occurs on a daily basis in our government. But the one that stands out above the rest is Open Secrets. You can visit them at opensecrets.org, where you will find a treasure trove of info about candidates and office holders, elections and fundraising data, plus industries and special interest groups. There is even a section that talks specifically about lobbying. Open Secrets is totally nonpartisan, independent, and nonprofit. Another organization which leads the fight against lobbying corruption is represent us. Their website, represent.us, features numerous short films and info to aid in the fight against this serious problem. They are also nonpartisan, independent, and non-profit with advisory council members from all sides of the political spectrum. I highly encourage everyone to learn more about how America really works by visiting these two websites to see the enormous influence certain corporations, organizations, and even outside powers have over our society. And if you feel like helping out, some donations are certainly welcome. I am not affiliated or supported by them in any way, form, or shape, as I am doing this purely out of the love for our nation and people. This is the one true way to return power back to the people. We cannot completely outlaw the practice of lobbying because it is protected by the First Amendment, but we can reform it and greatly reduce the abuses certain bad players have been employing to control our country. What do you suggest? I would like to hear what you think. Is there something you would like to add? Everyone would like to hear from you. I would like to dedicate this place to brainstorm a practical solution that is effective and legal to bring about real change to our corrupt, broken political system. We must protect our people and teach our children about the dangers of America being hijacked by a small handful of very powerful elites. Continuing to allow the rich and powerful to control our future is a terrible precedent to set, and allowing our children to grow up with this as the norm will pose a serious threat towards their future. For all of our sakes, we must immediately reform the practice of lobbying. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we must take a stand and pressure the government to limit and reform lobbying on Capitol Hill. Lend your voice to the fight. Join us in opposing the infiltration of Washington by people who don't have America's interests at heart. Again, we would like to hear from you on how we can take back our country from the elites, corporations, and foreign governments. Thanks for watching. I don't ask much, but the best way to contribute to me personally is to smash those like and subscribe buttons. And please do share this video with fellow patriots. Now let the brainstorming begin.